Hello. Those that are perceiving me right now, I'm of course here to tell you a story. I would hope at this point that you would understand the things that have happened before this point, that you will have made yourself aware of the events that have led me to where I am now. Because in essence, this is the story of my life, the story of how I became who I am, the building blocks that make someone who they are, in essence, are always simply their story. And this one is mine. It is a story of many things. It is a story of conflict. It is a story of compassion, a story of rage, joy, anger, sadness, and even love. A story of true magic and a world filled with it. Sometimes, even a story of sheer terror. But this story is mine all the same. My name is Reginald P. Worthington the First. In the months preceding my father's unfortunate disappearance, a great number of things have begun to transpire. I, of course, claimed my place as his successor to the Worthington estate. All of my father's businesses, his empire, belongs to me. Effectively, I am far too young to run a business, but having magic on my side is most definitely evening the playing field. In official settings and standards, until such time as I become of age, my mother is the official caretaker of my father's possessions and will, and decides what goes on. But that's more or less simply a public persona. In actuality, I'm running things. The workload is grueling. Even with magic to aid me, there seems to be no end to the amount of work that I have to do. I have a spell that allows me to rapidly absorb knowledge. I can take in the contents of an entire book in moments and understand it completely. However, I find it little help when it comes to the paperwork that I have to do. Sure, I can read and understand the documents at a rapid pace, which most definitely helps in speeding things up. The problem being that most of these things still require physical interaction. Most documents require signatures and seals of approval, statements of intention, what has to go where, who needs to do what assets to acquire, what assets to dispose of. Countless shifting investments. My father had an empire, and running an empire is a complex ordeal. Even with magic to aid me, it's exceptionally taxing. I spend most days buried in paperwork. The extra financial output that I have to make in order to ensure that I don't actually have to be on location only makes things all the more complex, increasing the price line because I have to pay other people to do the things that I can't officially be seen doing. Often at times when it comes to business transactions and interactions, I have to use my mother as sort of a proxy by using a magical incantation that allows me to transmit my thoughts, to speak to her with my mind in a way that no one else can hear. As far as others are concerned, I'm merely the son, observing the mother, there to learn about business, whilst my mother is the one conducting the deal. I simply mentally tell her what I want her to say, and she says it. The process works, but is taxing. I wish it were a bit simpler, but Things are what they are, and as unfortunate as it is, officially, a 10-year-old being in charge of things isn't legal. I have, of course, been receiving regular visits from. I suppose the agreement was that she is effectively my girlfriend, Alice. We did wait some time before letting her family in on that. We made sure to give a birth to the events of my father's disappearance. We wouldn't want them to too closely coincide. It might cause people to ask questions, and that's something that I simply don't need. Her father, not being a fan of me, didn't make the process easy. As far as Alice has told me, he is entirely against it. Quite frankly, I might simply give him his way if it were up to me. But the arrangement to be Alice's boyfriend was entirely her idea. And I struck a bargain to agree to be her boyfriend, so I am a man of my word, and I'm not going to try to weasel out of it. Any true businessman is only worth the weight his word carries. A true businessman honors the deal, and I am a true businessman. So, as I said, Alice has been paying me regular visits. As always, they are rather pleasant, mixed in with Alice's proclivity for interesting conversation topics. I still have to regularly attend social events as well. They are very important to maintaining status and image in the higher communities. They're basically required, which only adds more to my frustration and the amount it taxes me. Normally, I would be able to simply go to the children's section and associate with my friends, talk about things that I might want to talk about. But as I've taken control of the Worthington Empire, I have to be abreast of changes in the industries, things that might affect my business. I can't allow it to fall to pieces simply because I'm a child, which means I have to use magic to compensate. Basically, I have to use a variety and mixture of different types of spells in order to take part in the more adult events and conversations. One of the most useful tricks that I've picked up is one that I developed for a very specific event, but that I've found most useful. The construction of a temporary construct ability I call perceptual control. Basically allowing me to control the perceptions of all those within a 100-foot radius of where I am. It only lasts for about an hour, so most of my most effective business tactics that I take during those parties happen within that 1 hour time frame. I of course also have to mix it with other spells in order to make it functional. I may be able to control what people perceive, but what I perceive is still limited to my own senses, meaning I can't have a conversation with someone if I'm not actually there. Outside of that 1 hour time frame, I usually have to rely on my mother. Basically get her to talk people into discussing business with her, and simply tell them that, once again, her young boy simply wants to spectate and understand the nature of business. I've tried a myriad of different spells in order to try to compensate for the fact that I can't actually participate in business discussions. At one point I tried a spell to increase my sense of hearing so that I could overhear conversations. But at galas, parties, and balls, events filled with people, music, and countless conversations, it's simply overwhelming to the senses. Like 100 drums going off in your ears. It's not pleasant. Currently, one of the most effective techniques that I've found seems to be astral projection. the ability to allow one's spirit and mind to exit the body for a short period of time. This allows me to basically float around as a spiritual entity while my body stays put. I found it quite advantageous. People tend to discuss secret matters and share their opinions more freely about you when they don't know you're there. I found it quite effective in heading off some very nasty events and gaining the appropriate insights to make good deals. I do, however, wish I could spend more time with my friends. Alice does fairly regularly come by to visit, but unfortunately I find little time to be able to practice magic with her. And Evan and Eliza are usually stuck in the children's section, so I don't get to spend much time with them or really talk things over. My conversations with Evan are limited because he doesn't know about magic. I could talk to Eliza about it. In fact, she has written me a number of letters. We've been writing back and forth. Eliza, of course, has been delving into magic as well. Her abilities in it are astonishing. Very impressive, by anyone's standards, really. Her natural knack for engineering gives her an uncanny ability to see things in the magical world and the processes that make magic possible that most others simply don't see. For months now, she's been performing small-scale experiments and studies on magic in all its different aspects, beginning to perform magic herself, rather than relying on previously established spells. Eliza has begun to create her own mixture of magical spells, based on her personality and the way she likes to do things. She's quite creative, but unfortunately, our back and forth letters hardly serve as a replacement for actually being able to have full conversations. Other than that, I've begun trying to find my way to connections within the magical world. As most people think magic is just fiction, things you find in fairy tale books. The only people that I could actually interact with magically would be other people with knowledge of magic. Alice's family, the Wallendors, are aware of magic and have begun to make magical connections, according to Alice. But I can't really rely on them, and currently we're still working on revealing the nature of my magical abilities to them. We only recently came up with a suitable story and revealed the fact that I'm able to do magic to them. Technically, it was Alice who did all the talking. I wasn't there. The story primarily being that my father found out about magic when he was younger, after which he spent a great deal of time and research gaining knowledge about magic, learning how to cast spells and be a proper mage, and passed that information down to me, as his son. And sometime after his demise, or disappearance as others believe, Alice came for a visit and discovered me using a magic spell. And according to the story we're telling, that's how Alice found out that I had magical capabilities. As unfortunate as it is, we do kind of have to stick to that story in terms of how my magical abilities came about. When it comes to magic, families who dabble in it tend to keep a close hold on all magical information. It is a resource after all. And we needed to ensure that Alice's mother and father wouldn't believe that I simply stole the magical knowledge from them. This would cause conflict, and that's definitely not something I need right now. And telling them about my interactions with the man in the pinstripe suit is simply out of the question. I still haven't heard word back from Alice as to how her family is taking the news that I'm a magician as well. But our hope is that it'll open avenues and that I can start interacting with her family more favorably. But as of yet, there's no news. Currently, I am, as usual, stuck in my office, trying my best to shuffle my way through an endless stack of paperwork. There's always more. I've, of course, gotten rid of all of the things that used to belong to my father in the office and claimed it for my own, and redecorated it in my own taste rather than my father's very dull sensibilities. Replaced all the dull browns and grays, and instead I've gone with a motif mixture of silver and red. They might seem to contrast to most, but for whatever reason, I simply feel they blend well, as if the silver highlights the red. In my office, I've had a custom fine cherry oak desk placed with silver cornerings, a beautifully designed pattern burned into the wood and stained to perfection, a lovely red carpet that covers most of the floor, a very intricate design, and all of my books have been moved into this room, and I've begun expanding my collection as well. I've currently been searching for paintings to hang on the walls, but as of yet I'm uncertain of what I really want. I suppose it's nothing more than a creature comfort. It's not very important, but I'd still like to have it anyways. Regardless, for the moment, I'm stuck. Simply sitting at my desk, shuffling through that endless pile of paperwork, one document after another requiring a seal, a signature, a statement of intentions. I've been at it for hours. Honestly, I want nothing more than to simply take a break. It's been some time since I've been able to look through the magical index in any amount of depth. I need to acquire new spell knowledge. Perhaps find some way I can ease this process. And I've started to look through the book through the lens of the things that I need the most. Currently, I'm trying to find a doppelganger spell. Something that would allow me to create a copy of myself. Or basically anything that would allow me to speed up the process of these endless piles of paperwork. I have long since grown tired of having to sign them all, and there are more important things that I need to be doing. Or at least that's what I'm thinking to myself, sitting here signing them one after another. And then I hear a knock at my door. Yes, come in, I say, putting down my pen for the moment. My mother walks in with a pleasant expression on her face. Hello, Reginald. You've been in here for quite some time. I hope you're not overdoing it, my mother says, still looking at me quite pleasantly. No, Mother, I simply have business that needs attending to. Somebody has to do this paperwork, and as of yet I haven't found magic to speed the process up yet. Not as much as I'd like, at least. Well, I do have some news I think might cheer you up, my mother exclaimed. We, as of recent, have received a letter from the Wallengard family. Specifically, the letter is signed by Alan Wallengard, Alice's father, and it's addressed to you. I think it's working, Reginald. He may have been upset when he first found out that you were dating his daughter, but finding out that you're a magician and have magical assets and abilities may have turned the tide. After all, since they are magic users as well, it only makes sense that he would be happy that his daughter found someone who also dabbled in magic, of course. I believe that your plan is working quite brilliantly, Reginald. And now you can spend more time with that pretty little girlfriend of yours. She is quite adorable, my mother said, handing the letter forward with a big smile on her face. I took the letter, sighing a bit. If only she knew what Alice was really like, she probably wouldn't find her so adorable.